Yuba-Sutter.LIVE's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public comment, Mandy.
Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Directors on any subject matter that is not on the meeting agenda and is within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. Public comment periods are limited to 3 minutes per person, and the total amount of time for public comment is 15 minutes. Persons participating by way of video conference or teleconference shall ensure their audio is muted at all times, except when the board chair announces public comment periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. When multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. To ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public, violating generally accepted principles and decorum of official public meetings.
Okay, no public comment? Moving on, consent items.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Discussion items. Item 6, Dr. Fall, I'm going to do a presentation for the MJU State Pathways Program.
Morning, members, Chairman Messick and members of the board. Let me set up. My name is Sammy Nall. I am Yuba Water Agency's flood risk reduction manager. And first of all, happy Engineers Week. Yay, engineers. It's my honor to introduce Marysville.
Day of Social Justice.
My watch. Apologies. It's my honor to introduce Marysville Joint Unified School District Superintendent, Dr. Fall Azrani, who will be presenting on the district's new engineering pathway. I met Dr. Azrani a few months back, and her enthusiasm for this pathway was contagious. And as an engineer born and raised just across the river, giving children the opportunity to focus on STEM couldn't be more exciting. So without further ado, Dr. Azrani.
Good morning, supervisors and members of the audience. Good to see everybody here. Thank you for your time today. I don't know if you can see me behind the screen, Mr. Blazer, but this is the highest I can be. My name is Fall Azrani. I'm the proud superintendent of Marysville Joint Unified School District. Do I get to control how it moves, or is somebody going to control? Oh, there we go. It's right here. Okay. I would like to introduce very quickly with me is my Assistant Superintendent of Education Services, Mr. Jay Trujillo. You'll see him in a few minutes come up and do part of the presentation. And the proud principal, Dr. Merrill Grant of Lyndhurst High School. And we also have our science STEM coach for the district, Ms. Rita Moore, sitting back there. So engineering and science and STEM is not a new word for any of us here, but it is definitely something that's catching fire in MJUSD. I'm really proud of the work our district has been doing and the work that is already, had already started. So let me just very quickly go through this. We called it the Defined Ecosystem Engineering Pathway because we believe anything we do has an impact on just the economy of the place and also the entire ecosystem of the place. And education K-12, you'll hear that those of you who've seen me before and heard me before, I have continued to say that education is what we do. If all of us elected officials and leaders in our positions don't believe in education or believe in our schools, then the question comes to what are we talking about? It's a future, it's our children, our future leaders sitting where you are the very kids we're educating right now in our schools. And so when schools are left out or schools are put into the middle of conversations, I always feel like these are our children. Our children should not be talked about. They should be supported and grown together with the community. So that being said, on the first one, we'll review today Sammy, which way would I go? I thought it worked with the arrow, no? Or do I just go? Okay, I just go. Okay, so today, very quickly, we'll review a couple of things in the community so we can contextualize the conversation we're having in our school district. Every decision we make is not in isolation of what's going on in the community. We looked at the community needs and job market report from Yuba-Sutter Economic Development. We looked at employment data in Yuba County. We looked at MGUSD roadmaps, the strategic plan, and the graduate profile, two very, very important documents that have guided our conversation. And then we landed on the why engineering. So before we go to the why, we had to do our homework first, and we did that. Okay, so I want to start off with a little story because it's really important that we understand we're here today because of what's going on in our school district. So when I came in 2021-22, one of the questions I asked is, what's going on in the community? And my work became to learn about the community I chose to serve in. All of us in our positions that come in, we choose to be here. It's a choice. It's a decision we adults make. And so I was like, what's going on in our schools? And we saw that the identity of the schools in the foothill, there was none. They were just schools. And each school is a small school, 90 students, 100 students, 120 students. But we didn't have a defined idea of what are we preparing our children for. So when we started having these conversations, the foothill principal, six schools, 3 principals, and our BOGA that was becoming K-8 at that time came to me and said, we'd like to talk about coding and robotics. And I was like, yes, because coding is a job of the future. It's really the new world language. There's no jobs out there without coding. Once I heard those teachers, we brought an expert in who started, as you can see in the picture on the right, we packed the hall in Cordova, and we had a session, and they talked about the jobs of the future. They talked about the jobs of today, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, about what would be needed for our children. And as those teachers, as you're seeing in that room, which was packed with about 40 teachers, the excitement started generating that we need to talk about engineering, we need to talk about coding, STEM and STEAM. And the teachers came to me and said, we want to add A in because of the arts. And I'm like, you're right. Even engineers are artists by design, aren't they? So absolutely. Then we Loma Rica kiddos, and this was the cutest. They identified themselves as a coding hub of the district. That's one school where all the teachers are doing coding, and they're exposing children to coding from the time they're in kindergarten all the way up. And then I started visiting schools, and it is mind-blowing to me how in every school we had a teacher or two that was infusing coding and coding lessons to their children. And as I started talking to them and finding them, this excitement started coming together to the point where now in 2024, we have partnered with UC Davis, UC Riverside. We have written a grant, which is almost $400,000 that we've received. We are paying for every teacher who would like to get a supplemental coding and robotics as science, basically, a credential. And they could teach those courses in all our schools. And we are the only district that we have now been told that have started this vision TK through 12. And we say that because it's never too late to have our children excited about it. We had 22 teachers who gave up their Saturday and already started on getting their supplemental credential in coding and robotics and science. Backward. Okay, so this is where I just want to focus and go real fast. The role of TK through 16 education is truly the center of the conversations about economic development. When we look at regional economic development, we look at all the different jobs in the region. We talk about different counties working together. We talk about different businesses. We talk about pipelines. We talk about resource sharing. Then we come down to local economic development. And that's where the K-12 system becomes critical. We prepare the jobs, the employers and the employees of the future. Very often economic development conversations are made and there's no education at the table. And we talk about how there's comments about the school system failing our children. I'll be the first one to stand here and say, we're not perfect. I don't think we're failing our children because all of you, many of you are products of the MJUSD school district. However, could we do better? 100%. Are we preparing our children for the jobs that we need to fill in this community? Not so much, I think. One of the reasons that's starkly obvious is this district and this community and this region, this area, county, does not have a higher education presence. And the jobs we're talking about require some level of degree, some level of higher education, a BA degree, and then maybe more. We don't have those bachelor's options here. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not doing our best. It just means we need to do a little bit more. So when we look at community development, that's where we're talking to people about what do we need to do to make the school system backward map what we need to do better so you get the employees you need to be successful in the jobs of today and tomorrow. So this is a partnership, and this is the crux of the conversation for Education Economic Development Partnership, and that's where the partnership with Yuba what agency is going to, just setting the stage for that. We developed a commission. We developed as a school district, we realized that there's no point in us asking, we need to be doing. So with support with some tremendous leaders in the community, we formed the Greater Sacramento Education Economic Commission. That commission was formed back in September of this past year. And our conversation became very simple. We as education entity and the largest district in the county, we need to take control of the conversations around economic development and how can we be ready to support what the county is trying to do and this region is trying to do to enhance and uplift the lives of our residents. So we looked at a collaborative leadership and we have formed that committee. I can give a few names later, but sitting right here, we can talk about Mary Jane Grego, Dan Flores, Mr. Branscombe, Mr. Kevin Mellon, Yuba from, what's his name? Yuba College? Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown from Yuba College. And also at the table, last time we invited Mr. Whittlesey. We also invited Mr. Champlin. We invited several members, high-level executives from the county to come and tell us, guide our thinking as an education entity. It is very easy for people to stand on the sidelines. I'm going to say it because I'm known to be very blunt and direct. It's very easy to criticize the education system when you don't own the responsibility of the system itself. If we as leaders, all of us, all of you sitting and everybody in this room, just step back a little bit and look at what we deal with and come to the table to talk with us, I can promise you our system will get better and produce the results we're looking for. We then co-designed a collaborative economic framework. We sat around for 2 meetings and talked about what is it that we need to do as a GSEEC to create a conversation that would start creating an economic framework. And it came to start educating adults, start educating our families and our adults in the community about what the jobs are and what we need to do for that. Then we talked about attracting investments. And we really talked about what do we need to do to attract a higher education entity to make its presence felt in this community. The very next week, Sacramento State came to see MJUSD with their vice presidents of 2 different departments. And the conversation is, we will come to Marysville. We will open a chapter in Marysville. Our question is, we need to find a way to fund it. We need to make it sustainable so that people know that if we need to get engineers who need the graduate degree on that undergraduate degree, the option is in the community. When our students leave here, they choose not to come back. And then we say, okay, everybody left. Now we are hiring these people from Southern California, which is me. And then the criticism that come with it. You don't belong to the community. You don't understand us. But truly, we do. We committed to this place. But wouldn't it be better if the next superintendent was somebody who came from our school district? The next one is identifying living wage job pipeline. How do we create that? How do we create an option where the jobs of today and the jobs of tomorrow are living wage? They're not minimum. They're little families can survive. They can thrive in this county. Again, the education entity is part of it. And this is where the partnership with the school district. So we ask these questions. What are the trends? What are we seeing? What are we investing? What are the bridges and what are the gaps? And at this point, I'm going to hand over real quickly to Mr. Trujillo. And I'm watching the clock. I think we had 15 minutes.
Could you show me how you?
I just scrolled it down. This one goes down.
Good morning. I'm Jay Trujillo, and we heard that this is the week of engineers. Did you know that today is also National Leadership Day? So congratulations for your leadership, and thank you for the opportunity. What you see here on the slide is simply the largest employers in our local community in a variety of topics, right, or a variety of roles. You can see that MJUSD that right there is now number 3. But this is simply to let you know, especially by looking at the asterisks, those employers, or I should say those jobs whereby at the highest level requires some form of engineering, coding, robotics. It's a way of thinking, if you will, problem solving, and trying to make things better for somebody who's in need. This is just to give you a little bit of an idea, but what currently happens with our graduates in MJUSD. So on the little green bar, you can see those are the percentages of students who enter a 4-year public university or college right out of high school. MJUSD is on the left, county is in the middle, the state is on the right. You can see that we as a district, as a community, are far below county and state averages. The yellow bar are the percentage of students who attend a community college. So we can take some satisfaction there, I suppose, but just because you enter community college does not mean that you finish community college, right? Unfortunately, we do see lower numbers of students who actually obtain their AA degree or a real certification, which allows them to enter the workforce. The red bar simply is the percentage of students who we don't know what's happening with them. There's just no record. So that's something internally we're trying to work on to see if we can't get better at trying to see where our graduates are going, and that's part of the work that we're working on in the graduate profile, which I'll talk here in just a bit. And then the blue bar is just a combined college, whether it's 2-year or 4-year. So you can see that we have our work cut out for us. So what are we currently doing, or what's sort of the landscape for MJUSD right now? What are we doing to prepare students for college and or career readiness? We do have 23 pathways, CTE pathways representing 9 industry sectors. So these are broad industry sectors that allows us to thoughtfully, strategically give instruction and work-based learning experiences to students across a variety of areas. Each pathway is 300 minimum hours. So you might think of that as like 2 years of a course work. In some instances, it might be 3 years. Incidentally, we don't have any 4-year pathways, right? So that's a point to keep in mind, which we will talk about in just a bit. We have, over the course of the last 2 years, significantly expanded our dual enrollment offerings, which means that students are earning both graduation credit and college credit simultaneously, whether it's through college coursework taken on the high school campuses in some instances, or whether it's through students who are attending a college campus because we bus them there, which is also occurring. It's called our early college high school, or early college program, excuse me. Or most recently, the opening of our brand new high school, the Middle College Academy, which is actually housed on the Yuba College campus. So we have significantly expanded those offerings for our kiddos. And we have also expanded significantly our AP and our honors programs. Think of this as the way to get students early and pitch the curriculum, pitch the instruction at the level which is going to do them the most benefit, right? So we have many high-performing students who just seem to not, they kind of fall through the cracks and they don't get access to that level of rigor. So we're bringing that on board. And our CTE pathways, all of our courses are A through G approved, which simply means that they meet the criteria as a college level readiness, or to be a college preparatory course. And then most recently, we are very proud of the internships that we have started with 93Q, the radio station, Hard Rock, Right Out, and more are coming. I'm about to throw it, no. There we go. Dr. Fall mentioned a couple of roadmaps earlier. One is the strategic plan. So when she first came on board, one of the very first things she did, it was call together stakeholders from across our community, including parents, students, community members, teachers, principals and developed a 3-year strategic plan. This 3-year strategic plan is foundational. Think of it as a blueprint for everything that we do. And there are 5 specific areas that guide our thinking, guide our actions in the strategic plan. One of the main outcomes of the strategic plan was to develop a graduate profile. A graduate profile, which we just completed last year, simply is a unified agreement amongst all of those stakeholders about the expectations that we have for our students. And those expectations cut across 5 broad areas, which you see listed there. And under each of those 5 broad areas, we then have specific indicators beginning in kindergarten to help us determine whether or not we are making sufficient progress year over year in those 5 broad areas. Incidentally, you can look, those 5 broad areas are not just on the academic front, but they are also, if you will, in the way we think, the way we collaborate, the way we teamwork. So it's not just about academics. Why an engineering roadmap? It's because we see that it's the jobs of the future. As I mentioned earlier, it's a way of thinking. We are expected to grow continuously year over year in this arena and in such areas as IT, software engineer, artificial intelligence, which we are just starting to crack the conversations around. These are all things that we see as beneficial to our students who can pursue and successfully complete an engineering pathway. As Dr. Fall mentioned, we most recently secured a partnership with UC Davis and UC Riverside to begin training teachers in computer sciences to obtain this authorization, which is just simply another way for them to bring this level of learning to the classroom. And with that, I'll let Dr. Grant come up and talk a little bit more carefully about the engineering pathway itself. This little scroll thing.
Hello, good morning, Merrill Grant, Principal Lyndhurst High School. Just quickly to show this in action at a 4-year comprehensive high school. A little bit about our school. As you know, our enrollment's about 1,250. Strong economically disadvantaged number of 81%. So this program we hope will coach up our kids and have them thinking more about the 4-year academy pathway around engineering, science, technology. Regional innovation for science and engineering, RISE for short, providing students a rigorous educational experience to deepen understanding and know-how in science, technology, engineering, and math. And our partnership with Yuba Water Agency is going to put that into live context with field trips, real life scenarios that will show them that engineering is indeed a pathway that they can be coached up to and aspire to. Our 4-year RISE pathway or academy, this is 4 years, and as Dr. Trujillo said, this is more about 4 years of STEM versus a 2-year pathway. Coding each year with AP Advanced Placement Stats and Calc and on the sunsetting year and senior, and then comp science, engineering, robotics principles throughout. So we're real excited, and we have 60 students in 2 30-person cohorts starting with us in August, coming from both Yuba Gardens and our BOGA as our main 2 feeder schools. Our partnership, we're going to collaborate planning for employee pipeline, on-the-job learning and experience for students, larger economic impact with skilled workers, expand coding, robotics, and AI within all schools. So this is just an example of what we're doing south of the river here. We're going to coach up our kids and make that 4-year reality more of an opportunity for them. So we really appreciate the partnership and looking forward to it.
As we wind down right now, I want to be very clear, and one clarification maybe I didn't make well. We know that not every student is going to go to a 4-year college. We know that. That is not the point of this. The point is we do not get the option of putting kids in groups. We do not get to say, if it's equity, then equity is equity, which means every child is prepared. After they graduate from high school, they then make the decision which way they want to go, right? So while they're in high school, we don't get to box them. We don't get to say, well, you're not ready for a 4-year college, or we're not preparing you for that. So the highest level of rigor and equity means every child under our care gets the same opportunities like somebody else. Now, we know that once they go through the engineering 4-year courses, what we love about it is the math has the highest level of failure in high school. The coding math we looked at, which is the first course kids will take in 9th grade, as you saw, 60 kids already signed up. Math with coding is now engagement. It's teaching the same thing in a different way. Our kids are already coding. They're already gamers. They're playing video games. They're playing games on their cell phones. The mind's already wired to go that way. So why not teach them how to do volume and shape by moving a robot in a particular angle? And they don't even know they're learning 90 degrees angle or 45-degree angle, but they now have to move the robot in a 45-degree angle. They're measuring. I went to Lyndhurst. Now, this is a funny part of it. There's a class already in Lyndhurst where they're doing it. And so we have these courses. We're just making it more formal. We're making it more accessible. And we are hoping that with this wonderful awareness that Dr. Knoll is going to bring to us as an engineer who tells us, this is how you need to think, Fall. I'm not an engineer. So having her come to us and say, hey, Fall, think this way, or having Mr. Whittlesey tell me and challenge me to, how are you going to think about this? That's what education needs right now. That's why we are so excited that we would have these executives and these different thinkers challenge us as educators. You know what? Doesn't matter about my doctorate degree. I can talk to you nonstop for 10 hours on education. But is that going to make an impact? Not really. It is a reality of what you are asking for, that I go back and my team and our team looks and says, we need to teach differently. We need to do things differently. That's what we are hoping for with this partnership. And I'd like to end up with our next steps. We are working with Mr. Champlin. We've had some early conversations about a medical pathway at MHS. We're looking at expanding the Greater Sacramento Commission I just talked about, developing opportunities in every way to train and grow skilled workers. Please don't forget about K-12. We are integral to this conversation. We really want to establish a 4-year college center in Marysville. Sacramento's come to the table. We are hoping we can find some sustainable funding to make it a reality. When you have leaders like yourself here giving me a chance to come and talk, that's just a wonderful start to this relationship, to be able to listen to education and say, we do think differently. And then when we build engineering and medicine, also having some engineering and medical labs at the 2 high schools so that the schools can go in there and do some hands-on projects to learn about it, have engineers come then, give us some projects, challenge our thinking, challenge our children. We have to remember at the end of the day, many of our community members, many of the families we serve in our school district that has 84% of our school students in free and reduced lunch, many of our parents have not had that journey. They have not had that experience or that exposure. We are responsible for educating those children and every children under our care. It's a really, to me, it's a calling, right? Education isn't anything but a calling. And so if we can work with you and we can get our kids in competitions locally and nationally and end on that, thanks to Dr. Knoll again, we had MIT talk to us. We are working with middle college kids, who the new school that we established. MIT is talking to them and our children will be competing. Why cannot Yuba County students be out there in the world, in the education community, winning awards and prizes? Absolutely. We dream it and they will do it. It's up to us to make it happen. Yuba Water Agency has taken the first step. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for trusting us with the education of the children and for trusting us with your partnership. Mr. Trujillo, do you have anything else? Sure. We'll take any questions if you have for us. We know you have a busy schedule, so we just ran through our presentation.
Any questions of the board?
So through the chair, is this on? Yeah. Not a question, but I just want to thank you for coming today. Education, as you said, is absolutely critical to the future of our community, and the kids are that future. And so it's really exciting to see this. And it's exciting that Yuba Water Agency is able to be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to comment that I've met with the lady before, and my push to her was that we have the colleges at a very small percentage, but we have the rest of the students at a large percentage. And we had a great conversation in looking at the bigger percentage of when they graduate from high school or even if they go to Yuba College, they come out with some skills that they would have a lifetime job that they would enjoy. And I think that is, I got that message across.
Thank you. Anyone
Through the
else?
chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
So I've been involved with the CTE program for a long time. And there's some of us in the audience that have also been on that advisory board. One of my most refreshing experiences with committees is attending their different programs. And you really see it. It's great to go see the student engagement. You know, they're really focused on their projects. Typically, I think they're a 2-year pathway, I think, through CTE. Now, I noticed you said your medical that you're talking about is a 4-year. How does this compare, or does this kind of blend in with your current CTE program, or?
Right, and I want to go back and reiterate what Mr. Matthews was saying. When we develop the CTE pathways is to get our kids get more career technical education experiences. One of the reasons CTE became so famous, it came out of Harvard on a study that talked about pathways to prosperity. It was a research that Harvard brought out in 2009, and they talked about high schools redesigning their programs with career technical education, CTE pathways, so students would experience what the jobs would be like before they decided to invest in it, whether they go to 2-year colleges or 4-year colleges or just take a job. They were seeing high levels of dropouts from college, and so that's how CTE became a very deep part of school districts. Now, to answer your question, the 2-year pathways or 3-year pathways is a course of study in that particular area of CTE. It represents industry sectors. There are 15 industry sectors in the state of California, and the CTE pathways align to those industry sectors. The students who take those courses actually, for example, say, let's talk about child development. There's child development 1, there's child development 2. Or if you go to animation, there's animation 1, there's animation 2. Or film design 1, film design 2. The difference between that and the 4-year course of engineering and medical that we're developing is these courses are going into the core curriculum. They're going into mathematics, they're going into science. So students would earn a math credit through this course, a science credit through this course, and it's for 4 years exposure into the same pathway. Now, a child could finish those 4 classes and decide, to Mr. Matthews' point, I want to go straight into Yuba College, get a certification, and work in any industry, and that's perfectly. But the difference is now, unlike a CTE, which is specific to a particular career, this one is just opening your mind towards all levels of engineering. You could be, after you come out, you have some level of exposure on what would civil engineering look like? What would electrical engineering look like? What would water engineering look like? It's all levels of engineering, not a particular pathway on an industry. So that's the difference with the 4-year that we're doing with Lyndhurst now, and that we are hoping to start with Marysville for the medical. So you have exposure to everything. And another difference here is from the very beginning, the students from 9th grade, unlike CTE, which is usually 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, this one starts from 9th grade. So we're getting a chance to talk to students from a very early age to kind of think about the possibilities out there. And we're not waiting for them to have a lot of Fs on the transcript and then take a CTE class because they think it's going to be an elective.
So it somehow works in conjunction with your current CTE program.
It would absolutely. It's just a different course of study in a 4-year back. It absolutely would. We don't have a CTE engineering. You could say this could be a beautiful CTE engineering 4-year pathway.
Yeah, I particularly like the opportunity for the feeder programs like Hard Rock has demonstrated.
Yes.
A lot of potential for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah. I wanted to just voice my support for what you're doing for one thing, but I also wanted to encourage you. Somebody mentioned field trips, and I don't think there's a better way than a field trip to quickly expose somebody to a career path. And I'm thinking back on my own experience. I was 40 years ago was wondering what I was going to do in college, and I knew I wanted to go to college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I chose an engineering path because of shop classes and maybe some field trips. So, and I can look back at field trips in elementary school that I can remember that were were formative many decades ago. So I think that this board would be very supportive of finding ways to get kids out of the classroom and on field trips. And so just keep being creative and come back to us with.
Yes, yes, thank you. And I forgot to mention, be remiss of me to say, when we start a program, we try to make sure we have seed money to start it. Mr. Trujillo wrote a grant for the engineering pathway and got close to 300,000, I would think, to start this program at Lyndhurst. And so, you know, as a school district, we've come up with this thinking, there's monies out there in the state of California. We just have to write the grants. And I think, you know, we've written over, we've got 13.5 for wellness. We've written this one for 300. We're now paying for our teacher's credential with 400,000. And we don't have a grant writer. We do this ourselves in our own time. And we believe that if we don't bring the money to the table, then the conversation just sits there. So to move it along, we need to get the funding. So thank you. We do have the funding for bus trips for our kids to go. And I'm really excited to work with Ms. Knoll and her advice on where we could start exposing our children to see more engineering. I'd love to do one to Mr. Matthews, your industry, and see how it works for our children. Many of our children, except the FFA kids, have never really visited to see what that would look like. And so some of those would be wonderful to do. But thank you, Mr. Bishop, for bringing it up. If there's no other questions?
Great.
Hi, Mr. Baskin.
Thank you.
Good. Thank
Yep,
you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Tammy?
Morning, everyone. Once again, I just wanted to add to that last part about a field trip. We are going to take 60 of the kids to the monument on top of New Bullards, as well as the new power systems facility, to start to teach them. And they'll be the 8th graders to help them learn about what engineering is. And we'll have a bunch of our engineers out there talking about different types of engineering and really the broad breadth of opportunities that you can do with engineering background. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sammy. Item 7, receive and file a presentation on the 2-year collaboration research project between Citrus and UC Berkeley and the Yuba Water Agency using new monitoring sensing technologies on levees. Creighton.
Good morning, directors. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, we're here today to discuss an exciting research project with Citrus here in Yuba County. And before I start, I want to acknowledge Dr. Zekos, who is from UC Berkeley, who is joining us through Zoom. Dr. Zekos, you there? Oh, maybe you have some connection issues right now. Oh, there he is. I see him. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh.
I cannot share my screen, but yes, you cannot see me, but I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. His partner in this project is Dr. Soga. Dr. Soga is actually teaching right now and can't be here. But first, through this presentation today, we'll also have Ryan McNally, our Director of Water Resources and Flood Reduction, Risk Reduction, and then Sammy Knoll, Flood Risk Reduction Manager, to go ahead and give us a presentation about the full project that we're doing here today. So first, through the presentation, we're going to talk a little bit, or just a reminder on what Citrus is, what leverage Citrus has for us as an organization, why conduct our first project with Citrus on flood risk reduction, and what is the project, and then where will it be conducted. And lastly, and I don't want to forget, also Lon Hatamiya has been really crucial in our interaction with Citrus, and Lon is on the line as well. So first, what is Citrus? Number one, many of you will know that there was an event in May 2023, kind of bringing together an MOU, an interaction with Citrus, our organization in Wheatland. But this is just a little reminder of what Citrus is. It creates IT solutions for society's most pressing challenges. It encompasses all the Northern California UC campuses, and it operates with an innovative and entrepreneurial spirit of Silicon Valley. It strengthens bridges between, Andy actually got into us the presentation. Sorry. There we go. Looked down and I looked up and I was like, hey, not there. So, so it has an intersection between the world-class laboratory research, state, national policymakers, and companies and startups. So it really has an interaction between all these things, bringing them together. And it's shaping the future of technology in ways that cross traditional boundaries. If you look here at the next slide, this is citrus partnerships, but also, what are we leveraging out of citrus? So to learn innovative ideas for future growth, number one example of that is what we're going to talk about today in a project that we're doing on flood risk reduction. We're going to be interacting with world-leading faculty. It's a great opportunity for us. In addition to that, we'll be engaging with top talent. In this project, we'll be having PhD students coming to our community. If they don't stay in our community, that will be sad, but they will have a connection to our community forever. When they leave UC Berkeley, they'll be going to some of the top companies in the world, and they'll remember us. They'll remember about the work they did here and a connection that they've always had with us from that point on. And also to network with peers at Citrus. As you can see up here, here's just a few of the companies that Citrus partners with, and it'll give us an opportunity to do brainstorming with these people and with Citrus about maybe future projects that we have. So next I'll have Ryan McNally come up here and talk to you about why do our first project in flood risk reduction.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ryan McNally, your Director of Water Resources and Flood Risk Reduction. Before I go any further in this presentation, I just want to point out that today marks the 38th anniversary of the 1986 break along the Yuba River levee in Linda, resulting in the death of 2 and flooding nearly 4,000 homes. So I think it's fitting that we have this discussion about flood risk reduction today, and it's a constant reminder of our mission here at Yuba Water to protect the people of Yuba County from floodwaters. So to tag on to what Creighton was talking about, why a flood risk reduction project? So first bullet point, Yuba Water is the face of flood risk reduction in Yuba County. That is true, and it's important for everyone to understand that our work and the work of our partners will never truly be complete. We're always going to be involved in these big public works type levee projects. We're going to support our reclamation districts through these big construction efforts. But as time goes on, there will be incremental improvements that we'll need to embrace to provide better warning systems and a way to track insufficiencies in the levees. And that's what I think this partnership with Citrus is going to accomplish. Early detection and real-time data is a luxury that will help us better use maintenance dollars, and more importantly, potentially save lives. And at some point in the future, when all our levees are settled and complete, it'll be the advancements in technologies that will continue to evolve that will allow us to keep the needle moving toward reducing our risk even more. And so, like many of the things we do here at Yuba Water, our partners will be well positioned as an example of how to embrace the future and apply our investments toward the livelihood of Yuba County. So that's really what we're after with this project, is this kind of a pilot project to demonstrate some of these technologies and how to make these incremental improvements. So with that, I'll introduce our flood risk reduction manager, Sammy Knoll.
Good morning again. So what is this project? With technological advances in both remote sensing and both remote sensing and robotics, there are new methodologies in infrastructure monitoring and operations and maintenance. With a vision to enhance capabilities in levee health assessment, we're looking at active monitoring, and this research will kind of occur over 2 years. The project will utilize LiDAR flights over our levees and channels and fuse this LiDAR data with other remote sensing technology to provide assessment information on the health of our levees. And the project will also test innovative remote sensing technologies, such as distributed fiber optic sensors in our high-risk areas. And all of this is to, with the goal of hoping to monitor multiple miles of our levees in an efficient manner. And with that, I don't know if Dr. Zykos, if you have any other additional information you wanted to add.
No, I think you presented very well. Overall, we hope to apply some of these drones and put different sensors on them with the idea to be more prepared and anticipate this type of failures. It's a research project, but we're hoping it will be very insightful for these levels.
So where will this kind of research occur? So we're looking at up to 8 locations throughout the county in each of our reclamation districts. We are looking at diversities in location, in ages of the levee, in material types, and other factors that will really help with the understanding of different types of technology and their applicability. We will work closely with our reclamation districts in how we implement the technologies so we do not impact their ongoing operations and their levee health. So I kind of just wanted to point out a few of our locations. Up in the northern part of our county, in RD10, you can kind of see the red lines are kind of the locations that we're looking at. So RD10 along the Feather River, and then in the bottom part of the screen, you can kind of see 2 locations along the Marysville Ring Levee. And then in the southern part of the county, we have a few, we're considering 1 location along Dry Creek and downstream of Oakley Lane, and then 1 along the Bear River from the Wheatland Wastewater Treatment Facility to the setback levee. In RD 784, we're considering locations along the Whippick and along the Bear and along the Feather River. And I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments on the locations. Tom, if you want to say anything. Yeah.
There was something about the population and the funding on levy. Can you give us a brief background?
On that off on.
Through the chair, I heard from someone that we're not sharing the presentation on Zoom. So can we make sure and do that?
Okay. I'm gonna let Andy do that and let Tom answer that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Engler, MBK Engineers, flood control engineer for most of the reclamation districts in the county and have worked with the agency for many years on flood control. So I believe what you're referring to, Mr. Matthews, is the Army Corps is pushing towards what they call risk-based decision-making. Risk is a combination of the probability of a failure and the consequence of failure. So obviously where there's more population, more buildings, the consequences are higher, the risk is higher. So the Army Corps is looking at that and they're using that for their decision-making process. The first place I've actually seen it be applied is along the Marysville Ring Levee, where there were several reaches of levee that the Corps project was not repairing, and they went back and did what they call a risk assessment, semi-qualitative risk assessment on those, and determined that 2 of those do need repairs and have now funded those repairs that are starting design as we speak. From a local perspective, we all know what the risks are or are not, and the water agency has made it a goal of theirs to reduce flood risk in the entire county, starting with the high-risk urban areas and now moving on to the rural areas. So I don't know that it's going to affect our decision-making as much as it affects the Army Corps process. Does that answer your question?
I think the question is, we as a board, if we fund, like say the Marysville Ring Levee, there's obviously state and federal funds to match it. If we went to pour something in the Reclamation District 10, the ratio is we would have to spend our money, but we wouldn't get funding from the state and federal possibly. So I just give everybody the understanding of what we need to do in the future. And I assume in the future, our board would continue to do flood risk reduction, even if we had to do 100% of it without state and federal. That would be a decision board would make at the time. I just wanted to get the issue out on the table.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah.
So just to provide a little information on that, there is less funding for non-urban areas. The state is currently shifting their funding priorities towards non-urban. Urban and non-urban are decided by the amount of people that live behind that levee. 10,000 is the break point for the state. They're currently funding small community flood risk reduction projects, which are legacy communities. Wheatland is considered a legacy community in the county. And now they're also supposed to come out with a new program in the next month or so for non-urban seepage. So they've done a big study on seepage in non-urban areas and how they're going to repair those. And there's supposed to be state funding coming along with that. So what the water agency has been doing to date is investing to get the districts ready so that when state and or federal FEMA funds come available, we're in a position to go seek those funds. And then if there's no funds available, then it would obviously be a board decision as to how much you wanted to invest in those.
You put a chart up with red lines on it. You kind of delineate which of those red lines are presently eligible for state and federal and ones that aren't eligible for state and federal? Just in the general.
Well, isn't that where they're doing the study? That's just where they're doing these studies, Charlie, to see what the problems are with the levee.
So I'll just go ahead and answer that if you want. And Marysville ring levy, but currently there's no question to this board about urban versus rural levies. I think Director Matthews is trying to just bring up the point that future investments by this agency will have a policy decision on how much of our funds we want to invest in compared to how much state and federal funds are contributed to those investments in flood risk. But to bring it back to the citrus presentation here, you saw a slide previously about installing these sensors or monitors or this technology that Citrus is working on in a diverse set of levees or under diverse conditions. And we have that in Yuba County. We have 200-year level protection, what I consider some of the best levees, if not the best levees in the state of California around RD 784. And then we have levees that are big and tall and protective, but aren't necessarily certified levees and may have different conditions. We may learn different things from those in areas like District 10 in the areas around the Bear River Canal and Dry Creek. So the point we're making with this presentation is we're going to go utilize this technology, see what we learn from it in a diverse set of levee conditions.
I think I have a question too that I don't know, I might just make you repeat yourselves, but I guess I'm most familiar with the levees around Wheatland, and so I'll ask regarding those. And the section of the Bear River that you chose, Tom, there or was chosen to monitor is, really good levee. It's been modernized a couple of times. And then that, of course, the whole Dry Creek levee is substandard by a lot. So I'm just curious, like those sections, what's the criteria for choosing those?
So I actually provided a lot of input on these two sections of levee. The section along Bear River is a sandier levee, as you're well aware. The levee along Dry Creek is not so sandy, but the levee along Dry Creek has a lot of bank erosion occurring in the clay subsoils. So two different sets of conditions, mostly around the erosion, which we both know is our big concern in the Wheatland area is erosion. So we thought we'd use these two areas as two different types of conditions that we see all along the levees in and around Wheatland and other parts of the county, just to kind of see how the technology compares between two different sets of conditions.
Great.
Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead, continue on.
So thank you for having us give the presentation today and the questions. Just wanted to see if this was the right time for any of our participants who are on Zoom, if they had any comments as well. So Dr. Zekos or Mr. Hatamiya.
Sure, I can say a few words just because I heard about the Army Corps of Engineers risk assessment. The type of technologies that we're investigating here are definitely fitting in this type of framework. They allow you to see, even if there is not very clear evidence of susceptibility, they allow you to have better insights and prioritize which parts need to be fixed first. And the prioritization is, of course, a function of the condition as well as the consequences of the failure. So this type of research project ties very well to the risk framework by the Army Corps of Engineers. And we are actually working with them on topics related to this, not on Yuba County, but with the Army Corps of Engineers on levee and dam condition assessment and failure analysis.
Thank you. Lon, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, Creighton, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and directors. Just to tie the nexus between the MOU we signed last May to this project, I think it comes appropriately right after Dr. Azrani's presentation. There's a clear opportunity to bring PhDs and engineers from UC Citrus into Yuba County to provide higher levels of support to the existing programs that we currently have. But it's also part of our economic strategy long-term to determine, are there other opportunities within Yuba County that can benefit from not only UC Citrus's involvement, but UC Davis and other UC campuses that can help us enhance the work that the water agency is involved in, as well as the future economic opportunities throughout the county. So again, there's a clear connection, and I just wanted to highlight that very clearly.
Thank you, Lon. And so there has been a lot of engagement with Citrus, and that engagement included the brainstorming that came up with this project and hopefully further projects. So both Dr. Soga and Dr. Zekos not only are part of Citrus, but they are part of the Center for Smart Infrastructure. That provides us a lot of opportunity with the work they're doing in other communities and the interactions they are having with new technology. So we're looking forward to that relationship as we move forward.
I'll just make that comment too. Thank you, Lon, for pointing that out, because I was not sure last May exactly, when Citrus says we do research, and I didn't know what that meant really for us. And so this is great.
I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead and comment and just say, when we started talking about doing this work on levees, and this is just research. That's all it is. It's not a long-term program to do anything with that would compel our levee districts or reclamation districts to do anything. But we're going to use their levees to test this technology. But I relate it back to what we do at New Bullard Bar Dam, and we have regulatory requirements to measure things and to track things for the health of our dam, and then we go above and beyond there. Like a couple years ago, we put that robotic total station in there to survey our dam constantly, and Tim's constantly working on additional real-time data collection in our dam. Well, why wouldn't we have the same thing on our levees? So I brought that parallel and said, yes, we should absolutely develop this research on this technology. Dam technology is probably a little more refined because we've been working on it longer, or at least the industry's been working on it longer. But here, we're on the leading edge of monitoring levees and gaining data on levees. And that's exactly what that MOU is signed for, is to go out there and figure out how can we do things better? How can we do things more? How can we get more out of the investments we're making?
So I have a question of you now, Willie. Could we also use this LiDAR and do some research on water delivery rather than just a flood risk reduction, say out in the Cordova or up in North Yuba in the districts?
Now you understand the value of the MOU. Exactly. It's start with something, and then where else can we go do research? So we thought it was a lot to bring you the first step of action following the MOU, and now your idea to go.
I'll second that too.
Okay. Any other questions? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, manager's report.
Good morning. Hope all is going well. Things are going really well with water operations this year. This is a pretty ideal year. I think we're a little bit less than average overall in the state, but at New Bullard's Bar and in our operations, it's been wet since the beginning of December, mid-December, but it hasn't been too wet, but it's been just right. The snowpack isn't perfect, but it's good enough. It looks like an El Nino type snowpack, but things are going really well as far as water supply and flood operations. So New Bullard's Bar is at about 770,000 acre feet and climbing right now. We're 120% of normal storage year to date. And we've had 270,000 acre feet of inflow since October 1st. That's about 65% of average. We're coming up closely approaching the 170,000 acre flood pool. I think we're like 30,000 acre feet shy or something close to that, but we'll be close by the end of the storm. And remember, it takes a few days after the storm for the runoff to hit the reservoir. We might encroach by a couple thousand acre feet. We'll be able to manage out of that or get out of encroachment just by using the Colgate generator, so we likely won't have to spill. But that's just based on the storms we have had and will continue to see today. And then we'll have a dry period for a handful of days. And then if El Nino continues as it has been continuing, we probably will have some more storms throughout March and April. So we're looking good from a water supply standpoint. We're looking good from a flood risk standpoint. All in all, things are going well. As far as ops and maintenance goes, all of our generators are online and generating. I reported to you last week or 2 weeks ago, we came out of the Colgate Unit 2 outage. We did separate the mini hydro from the grid in preparation for this last storm. That's a common occurrence. I report to you quite often, and it's offline now, and we'll put it back online once the storms pass. I do have some revenue numbers for December. The average CalISO power price for December was $53.57, and actual generation for December was 57,000 megawatt hours, and our forecast was 62,000 megawatt hours. Remember, this is for December, and December was kind of dry in the beginning of the month, so we just had a little bit less generation than our forecast. Our revenue, our actual revenue was $3.5 million for December. Our forecast was $4.2 million. We didn't really have a hot market in December. It was kind of just average or below average market. And our other revenue, RA, carbon free, and REX was forecast at $1 million, and our actual was $1.35 million. So those products were slightly above our forecast, and our total revenue was $4.85 million for December. And I'll just contrast that. I don't remember what December 22 was, but I know it was near record because January 23 was record. So this is how operating in California with the energy markets we have and the hydrology we have, this is how it works. And you'll see, I'll just forecast our January numbers. We were kind of in conservation mode in the first part of January, meaning we were just holding back water in New Bullard's Bar and letting the natural flow into Englebright meet our minimum in-stream flow releases. So there were many days in January where we didn't generate a lot and we just sat there in conservation mode. That changed once we started seeing these significant storms. I'll report a little bit on our power systems headquarters. The bottom line is things are going well. As far as the construction goes, we're kind of not delayed, but paused through these storms. You can't get a lot of work done through these storms, but we're continuing to work with Hilbers and others on that project. As far as the overall schedule goes, it's looking really well, and we haven't hit any major problems other than weather, which is anticipated when you're trying to build something through the wintertime in the Sierras. We're all within our OSHA compliance. There's a bunch of folks going through CPR and AED training this week. A little bit back on the weather situation. So I've reported over the last year and a half about the La Nina conditions, and I've reported recently that it looks like we're transferring into, we've been in El Nino conditions and we'll be transferring back into La Nina really quick. By this summer, ocean conditions will probably be in like full La Nina conditions. What does that mean for us? All it means is we're in conditions that are La Nina-like. Both El Nino and La Nina conditions can give us wet or dry periods, but we can look to past years where some La Nina years give us good water years, some are fairly dry. So just report that and keep tracking that so you guys are aware of what we're seeing. But what I will say is The El Nino conditions we're seeing this winter these are the last two storms, this storm the last couple of days and then 2 weeks ago when we had that major power outage and all that. Those are like your typical El Nino storms. Warm rain, significant high winds, a lot of precipitation in Southern California. So I'd say over the last month, we've seen your very typical El Nino conditions. That's why we report to you what ocean conditions we have so we can anticipate the type of hydrology that we'll see. On the government relations standpoint, we signed our flow contribution grant agreement with the Department of Water Resources on February 9th. I was authorized to sign that by this board on December 19th, so that was executed. And communications and community update, the Appeal Democrat covered the board's decision to purchase the land adjacent to Colgate, and we're getting a lot of plugs related to water levels as so many storms have started rolling in. Over the last couple of weeks, we sponsored the Food Bank Dinner, the Wild and Scenic Film Festival, and the Yuba-Sutter Chamber Gala. And upcoming sponsorships include the Day for Women and the BOK-KAI Festival. A new sponsorship this year is Girls on the Run, a 10-week after-school program in which girls in 3rd through 8th grade develop essential skills to help them navigate the world and establish a lifetime appreciation for health and fitness. And on Sunday, I participated in a panel discussion with state, federal, and academic leaders at Circle's Wild and Scenic Film Festival to discuss the film California's Watershed Healing by filmmaker James Tebow. And this presentation went really well. It was standing room only, and the engagement, it's an hour-long film, and then there's an hour of panel presentation and discussion, and it went really well and was positive. I participated on the panel with Wade Crowfoot, Secretary of Natural Resources, Ellie Alano, Forest Supervisor of the Tahoe National Forest, and Martha Conklin and Roger Bales, both from academia. It was really great. It was really fun. It was very interactive and got some really, I wouldn't call them tough questions, just some very engaged questions by the locals up there about forest restoration and its relation to state policy, federal Tahoe National Forest policy, and Yuba Water Agency operations and the benefits to water. So Mandy is now officially our clerk of the board. I think we announced that a few meetings ago. She had in the past been an assistant to the general manager and the other directors at the agency, but now that she's full-time clerk of the board, we have hired Fallon Cox, whose title is staff assistant to the general manager. And I'd like to introduce Fallon. She's back there in the pink shirt. So I was going to introduce her 2 weeks ago, but I was on Zoom and I wanted to do it in person. So Fallon helps myself out with scheduling things, coordinating things, and also helps the other directors out here. So I'd like you to know who to go to when you get a hold of me and you can't get a hold of me directly. With that, our next meetings are on March 5th. We have a regular board meeting and an ABP committee. That's all that I have.
All right. Directors reports. Start down there with Andy. Nothing? Dawn?
Yeah, I see Tom Engler left, but I wanted to thank him. He put together a tour of the District 10 levee, 22 miles maybe. Ryan and I and Andy went with him. It was very informative. My takeaway was I was actually impressed, not knowing much about levees, about the quality of the levees. To me seemed pretty impressive to me. But the bigger takeaway is when you're on the levees, you're looking back across all the farm ground and agriculture, orchards. You don't realize how much is out there and the value of all that. And there was a comment earlier about value relation or people related to levees, and but the value of the ag certainly needs to be part of the conversation. Anyway, it was a very nice tour.
Seth?
Building on that, the interconnectedness of our county. I know 80% of it belongs to a certain district, but it's incredible that everybody in every area is caring about Yuba County. I've had lots of support from people in the 5th district, whether it's Marika or Charlie talking about water quality. And how we can increase and improve everyone's situation. When I talk to constituents, they're worried about their insurance rates going up, and it's because fire insurance rules that affect our woodlands creates insurance agencies exiting the state, which then creates a lack of supply for insurance and then causes increases in costs for people in the valley. So it's all very interconnected, and so working together, solving the problems, even though it doesn't directly enter into the scope, it's good that we don't have tunnel vision and we are broad-minded in fixing problems everywhere.
Gary?
So last week, I had the opportunity to attend the National Association of Counties Conference in DC. And one of the things we did while we were there was spend some time talking to our congressional representatives. And so in addition to representing county interests, I asked Yuba Water Agency staff before I went if there was anything they wanted me to talk about from an agency standpoint. And it was the updates to the water control manual and maybe a little bit about the ARC spillway. I just wanted to say that both Congressman Kiley's office and Congressman LaMalfa's office were very well versed in both of those topics, knew exactly what was going on. And so props to Willie and Adam and others who have been actively engaging with them on that. They're well educated about us, our mission, and the projects that we're undertaking. So it was great to do that. And speaking of advocacy, NACWA this Thursday is having a state legislative water advocacy day. And so I'll be down at the Capitol and we'll be meeting with Senator Laird, Assemblyman Patterson, Senator Ashby, and Majority Leader Aguilar Curry to talk about water interests in the Sacramento Valley. So NACWA does great work representing the agency and other agencies in the Sacramento Valley. And I think that their approach is very synchronous to ours. It's collaborative. It's big picture. It's how do we protect water rights and at the same time take care of the environment and work together and not fight each other. And so it's great to be part of that organization. So,
thank you, Charlie.
Yes, I've been doing thinking, and that should scare people. I think the long-term view of the water agency is that we have to be diligent in the ability to project and to keep, because I'm concerned about the reserves and the mission and the longevity, and I think that we all need to take that into consideration for the next few months and discuss that further.
Wayne?
Nothing.
Okay, I attended the Chamber Gala, the Water Agency table with Terry and Charlie and Seth. Gary was there, yeah. It's a good event. I'm thankful I didn't attend the food bank dinner. It was a rough over there. Sunday, I drove up to Bullard's Bar. It looks getting full. Looked really good. Drove down to Lake Francis. It's full. So, yeah, that's about it. So we're going to take a 10-minute recess, and then we're going to go into closed session.
Recording stopped.
Yuba-Sutter.LIVE's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.